Good morning and welcome to Qdabra's webinar. My name is Patrick Halstead and I'm your MC for today. I have James Risch as well from Qdabra who will be doing some demos showing you how easy it is to move your forms off of InfoPath in a few minutes. Before we get started, I want to just briefly explain what we're talking about today. We are once again talking about the end of life of InfoPath. We've been talking about this now since 2014. It's been almost 10 years, it feels like. And I want to do a quick poll here and just ask if you saw this latest release from Microsoft. Microsoft has been nudging their customers to move off of InfoPath for quite a while now, since about 2016. And hopefully you can see this poll here. It looks like, yes, you're filling it out. Thank you very much. This is great. So it looks like about half of you, not quite half of you, saw it. What I'm really talking about here, I'm just going to close the poll and just show you quickly what I'm talking about. And that is this announcement from Microsoft, if I can get there. So in Message Center 365, they have this message from September, actually it's from June 30th. Some customers were receiving this after June 30th. I don't think anyone received it before June 30th, but some customers, and I want to give a shout out to one of our favorite customers, Richard Sahadi at Prestonwood Church, who inspired us to do this talk again today. And really, it's great to see so many people here. So thank you very much for being here. And we'll be talking about the blog post Microsoft had on June 30th in a second here. I just want to share one more poll with you. I'm going to share the results from the last poll, and then we're going to switch to the next quick question here, which is, what are your concerns regarding the end of life? And here you've got multiple choice. You can pick more than one. I wasn't being super creative, so I just had 4. But one concern is, well, where are we going to take all these forms? And list forms, library forms, Power Apps. We're going to go to some other technology. That's number one. You might be worried about the cost and the time frame with Power Apps. 2026 is the end of life. You've got a couple of years left still. Many of you I know are customers, and you're already using Qdabra Forms, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And you might be worried about Microsoft breaking form libraries because they're removing support for InfoPath. So we'll talk about that today. You also might be worried that we don't have all the features done in Forms Designer. We've been working really hard over the last couple of years to do that, but we still have a few features remaining. We're working hard to do that. So yeah, it looks like I'll just share out the results here. It's kind of across the board here, but thanks for answering those quick questions. And there's the results. And we're going to switch back to the presentation here, if I can get back there. It is all live in 365. So hiding the results. So hopefully you can see my screen. Jimmy, do you see the presentation rendering again?
I see yes, I do.
Great. So topics for today's webinar, these are the bullets in the webinar email that you got. We're going to go through the Microsoft announcement. I'll talk about this for another minute or two. We're going to then kind of introduce Qdabra Forms again, why we presented this solution to our customers. And we do a lot of Power Apps and Power Automate and Power BI and everything, Power Platform. And we love to move customers to that when that makes sense. But we'll be showing you a much less costly alternative in Qdabra Forms, and basically showing how to take a list form. Basically a few steps Jimmy will be demoing is literally just a few steps, and you can just have your forms opening in Qdabra Forms and be just rid of InfoPath and be gone with it. And then we'll also show you how to address the issue of maybe the form library going away, how to push that data to a document library so you don't lose any of your data if you can't submit to your form library anymore. And then we're going to talk about moving your data to SQL as well. So those are the topics, and there's more, but this is what I sent out earlier. So this is a Microsoft announcement. I've broken this up into 6 slides, and I really want to go through this for a second with everyone and just make a few comments on this. I went through and read this again very closely. This is the official announcement on their web blog, posted June 30th. Phoebe Wan, I don't know her, but you'll see at the very bottom here, end of life is July 14th, 2026. That's 3.5 years away. No, that's less than 3 years away. It's 2.8 or something like that. So Microsoft is saying that the form services will be removed from online. This is just affecting SharePoint Online. And if you have server versions on-prem, you won't have any support. So you can still have your forms opening locally, whatever, but you won't have any support from us. So that's what Microsoft's saying. Now, and then they have a bunch of text here on how to, I like how they've broken this up and said, look, if you're an admin, you need to understand how many forms you've got. If you're an end user, obviously, they're trying to do a good job of organizing this, but their English hasn't been reviewed. And you can see here, this is from their website. You can go there right now. You can see this, it's still there. The entries are configuration capabilities. Well, that's very, very strange. Maybe she meant entrees or whatever. Maybe she meant the entry to configure your app. I don't know. It just shows that Microsoft really hasn't put a lot of time into reviewing their text here. So this option in your admin settings is going to go away, and likewise, you won't have this setting as well. So they've highlighted those. They've talked about, well, you won't be able to submit a new response. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, but let's say that it does mean that you won't be able to submit to a form library. We're going to show you today how to publish your forms using Qdabra to a document library, which we're assuming is not going away because document libraries are supported by Word and Excel and everything else. So we'll show you how to move the data over to a document library today. And they have a little bit of text on what you need to do. And so there's a bunch of tools that they've published to help you identify how many InfoPath forms you still have. That's a great idea. We have a lot of customers doing that. They have a bunch of scenarios they talk about using Power Apps for some scenarios. These are kind of interesting scenarios. They've got the information collection. I would say 95% of all business forms in the world are multidimensional. In other words, they have repeating data. So this idea of using Microsoft Forms for some of this stuff is just really, I think, not realistic. Given in fact, let me just briefly mention that we've actually been now in business for 20 years, and as of last month. And we started talking about moving off of InfoPath. I don't know why the slide isn't rendering correctly, but we started talking about moving off InfoPath in 2015. In fact, we actually shipped the first version of Forms Viewer, which was our solution or application. It's a provider-hosted app that we gave people for SharePoint Online that would take their existing forms as is and support them. So we actually shipped the first version of that the year they announced it was they were deprecating InfoPath. They announced it in January, and I think we shipped FV 1.0 like in Q3 of 2014. Since then, we've made a lot of enhancements, added a lot of new features to Forms Viewer, and we spent the last 2 or 3 years now focusing on Forms Designer, which is FD here in this legend here, and Central Flows, which is the workflow solution that we're including. It has some benefits over Power Automate. So there's some very simple steps. Literally within 15 to 30 minutes, you can move your list forms, library forms off of InfoPath. You just install the Qdabra Forms app from the SharePoint App Store, configure the links. Jimmy's going to quickly show you how to do that. Jimmy?
Yep. Hello, everyone. Let's just switch over to me.
I'm clicking on your name and making you presenter.
Okay. There we go. All right, so we're going to look at a few different scenarios today, but first of all, let's talk about what to do if you have a list where you've been using an InfoPath list form up until this point. So we can see here I have a leave request list. This was set up with a list form. So you can see that if I click any one of these titles here, it opens up with a layout that has been put together in InfoPath. I can also click New, and likewise, it will open up with a similar layout. Now, the Microsoft announcement means that in mid-2026, we won't be able to do this anymore because this is using InfoPath form services, which they are no longer going to provide. So what do you do in this situation? Well, the first thing we need to do is get the template. Now, one way to get it is to open up the template in InfoPath. I believe if we switch to classic mode, there's a button to do that. But that can be somewhat problematic, and it'll probably prompt you for a password or whatnot. So the simpler way is just to modify the URL to get it. So the way to do that is we go to our list URL. It's going to be list / the name, type item / template.xsn ? No redirect equals true.
And this
so
is,
it's gonna
you're extracting the XSN to upload it to the Forms Your app. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So it will always be this format. It's going to be item / template.xsn, and this part here, the no redirect, tells it to initiate a download of the file instead of trying to open it in the browser. So I'll go ahead and hit enter. We can see that it downloaded here. Downloads as template.xsn because that's what it's called. So I will rename it. Let's delete this old one. Oh, it's open in InfoPath. I was having a look at it. Okay. All right, so leave request. All right, now we're going to come over to my forms viewer, click upload a new template.
And this is the after you've installed it, but you can, for those that haven't installed Forms Viewer, Qdabra Forms, which is Forms Viewer and Forms Designer, you can go to the SharePoint App Store and find it. Just search for Qdabra, and then you can install it. And once you install it, you'll have this managed. If you're a site collection admin, you have to be a site collection admin to use it. And then you'll go and you'll see this manage templates page, which is what Jimmy was just showing. And then you'll be able to add a new form to this. Jimmy?
Yep, exactly. Okay, so let me just do that again. I will come to where I downloaded that file, not here. Here. Okay, just drag the file over, click upload. And now this form is in Forms Viewer. I can open it up. And in some cases, depending on what the form involves, how it's been set up, you might not even need to make any changes to the form to use it. In fact, that is true for this one. But we're going to have a look at how you can use our designer to make a few fix-ups to get it to work. Now, if we come back, so I was going a little too fast. So from this upload template page, you can click on the design button to open the form in our designer. Now, in a lot of cases, list forms might not have buttons in them for submitting. The list form UI thing here, it has a save button, which will save the item. So in some cases, you might have been able to get by using that up until this point, rather than having a button with custom functionality in it. In Forms Viewer's case, we don't have that ribbon, so you would need to add a button to submit. So I already have my button here, as you can see, but just for the sake of argument, let's add our own. So just gonna go button, click plus, there's my button. Rename it, give it a rule. There we go, going to submit the main data connection, and that's it. Now you might want to add some print functionality to your form, let's say. We can do that here. Let's just add a row above this title. We'll add another button. Print. And for this, it's not going to actually be a print. Let's actually say what it does. There will be a download PDF. Right, align. Okay, and for that, we're going to use Q rules. So we just come in here and add Q rules to our form. There we go. And we're going to
We're going to
use
interrupt
the
you for a
render.
second and just explain QRules is our extension library. You know, about 100 common commands, features that were not included in InfoPath. We've extended InfoPath with over the years, and now they're built in to Qdabra Forms. And Jimmy's going to show one of those commands, but we have a large library of common functionality that extends your forms, such as printing PDF. Jimmy.
Yep. So let's have a look at that. We're just going to go to this buttons rules. We're going to use a Q rules command. And that is going to be, let me just double check the syntax on this. Render form / format equals PDF. Okay. Let's save that. All right, now we can open it up. Let's fill out. Okay, now let's say before I submit this, I'm gonna download that PDF. There we go. Easy peasy. And we can use this submit button here. It's not going to close the form like the other one does, but or set the status values. But let's just see that it works. So there we go. We submit. Come over here, close this. We have it there. Good. There it is. Okay, it didn't set the title because there's some logic on this, on the actual submit button. It sets the title, I guess. Yeah, you see a title. So let me just hit this submit button again. All right, there we go. Might take a second to update. There we go. Okay, so we've got our form good to go. We can see that it submits to SharePoint. So what we need now is the ability to open it up from this list view. For that, we provide a companion app called Forms Viewer Extensions. That involves this web part here that we can use to configure a library or a list to open up its forms or list items in Forms Viewer. So some of you might have seen or used this before. We've done webinars on this. So if this is new to you, I recommend checking out one of those webinars. So we're just going to come in here, pick our list. Here we pick which columns we want to override. Let's just do them all. We'll have all of the columns open the forms up in Forms Viewer. Usually people will want to hide the new and upload buttons to prevent any confusion, because this extensions has its own button that it provides. So we're going to hide those, and we're going to call this new leave request. That's going to be the text on the button that opens it up in Forms Viewer. Just hit apply changes. You can see a little log down here, and we can see that the operation completed successfully. So we come back here, refresh. Sometimes it takes a second or two to take effect. So let's refresh one more time. There we go. Okay, so I'm not seeing my button for whatever reason. But at least let's refresh one more time here. Okay, the button is missing for some reason. I'll have a look at that. But we can see that these titles here, when I click any one of these, it's going to open up the list item in Forms Viewer.
So to quickly recap, Jimmy, you you basically just download the XSN list form, upload it to the new Form0 app that replaces InfoPath, and which people can download for free from the Qdabra store, SharePoint
Yeah.
store. And then you made a few minor modifications to add a button to submit the form and one to download the PDF. And then you ran this app, Form0 extensions, to fix up the list links and whatnot. And basically that was it. And then the list forms are now opening in Form0.
Or they should be. Something's not going quite right at the moment. They're not opening, getting an error when I try to load it. So I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Well, let me quickly, actually, we should, how long do you think this will take? I don't want to rattle on this too much but this is a pretty key part of the demo to show that it's because you were doing this a minute ago before the webinar. It was working fine.
Yeah, we saw this just a moment ago. Let me just try applying these settings. Oh, here we go. I didn't specify the template name. Okay, so let's just come back here. The template name is the name that's specified when I upload the template. We should probably have some validation here that doesn't let you apply changes without that. Here we go. All right, so apply changes. Now we should get our button. Sorry for that oversight. There's our button. Okay, so now when I click any one of these, it will, okay, let's try that again. Sorry, everybody. Okay, there we go. So we can see we're opening up existing items here in Forms Viewer. We can come back here.
I was going to ask you to click the download PDF just to show that that's new functionality that's working.
Sure. There we go.
Great.
Okay, so like that, you can quickly and easily get your form up and running in Forms Viewer, then set up your list to use it.
Awesome. Any questions? I know I've seen one question so far. If you got a question, actually I've got a couple questions here that I need to answer. Sorry, everyone. But we got a question from Suzanne about where to find all these cures commands, and there is a place for them. Jimmy, do you want to go back to the Forms0 main and just quickly show? We've got a lot of functionality. We've done a lot of webinars on it, and each command.
Yeah. So she wants to see where she can find all the Q rules commands.
Correct.
Okay. So for that, we have a Q rules command builder, which gives you all the information about the commands and lets you actually put the commands together. We haven't yet added that to our new designer. That's still in the old one. So you can see this design legacy button here. That'll open that up for you. And you can see here, you've got a list of all the commands that Forms Viewer supports. There's a whole lot of them. Let's have a look at that render form one. And here we can see all the parameters that are available. Quite a lot of different options you can use with this command. You can set what kind of output. You can set a file name for the file. You can see here that we're getting this sort of GUID file name here, but you can specify a file name, or it can be dynamic using rule logic if you want. You can do a whole bunch of different things. So definitely, anytime you're not sure of parameter names, different options and things, have a look in here and it should help clear it up for you.
Yeah, Q rules is one of the, there's many reasons why we're helping customers move off of InfoPath using this app. Jimmy, can you go to the next, I know you're going to show the next demo here. Right? We're running out of time, or we want to speed it up a little bit, but I wanted to just mention that Q rules is one of the big reasons because, there aren't any, and there are obviously if you're using Power Apps, you can write your own code, but it's a lot of work, and Q rules gives you this common library of functionality that's data driven in a sense. You specify, the name of the file, for example, in this case, and other things, and you're not hard coding it. And then you add the same QRules library to every single one of your forms. They're all consistent. You're not writing separate code for every single app. You're just using the common stuff. And that was the original inspiration back in 2008 when we created it for InfoPath. And we've still got some functionality. We have 165 commands in the original QRules, and we only have about, I want to say 80 or 90 in the new one, in the current forms, Qdabra Forms one. We haven't added all 160 because most of those, high level or those high numbered commands are like functions. Like we have about 50 functions on doing financial calculations, like Excel formulas and things like that, that haven't been a huge requirement yet, but we'll eventually get to those. Jimmy.
Yeah. Okay, so the next topic we want to talk about is forms library based forms. And as Patrick alluded to earlier in the presentation, up until now, SharePoint has provided these form libraries, which are really geared around InfoPath forms. They have a place for, basically there you have a form template built into them and whatnot. And we're not entirely sure what's going to happen to forms libraries, whether they're just going to stop working or what. It says you should still be able to access data from them, whether you'll still be able to submit to them. We're guessing you will be able to, but there's a possibility that you won't. So we want to talk about how you can move your form to a document library, which is sort of the more standard type of library. So here we have a form library. It's called Expense Report Forms. I've already set this one up to work with Form 0. You can see the links, you can see the button. And it has a couple of promoted properties, which are basically form values that are extracted out to columns, which is a very nice feature. So what we want to do is to be able to submit to a document library instead. So let's come back to site contents. And we're just going to start from the beginning with creating the document library. Expense reports. Okay, so here is my document library. We can come back here and see that it is indeed a document library. Now, as I mentioned, my form template is already in Form 0, but I sort of want to repoint it at this new location. So what does that involve? Let's go back to our template list and come in here to our expense report. Let's clean up some of these tabs here. Okay, yeah. All right, gonna open that up in Forms Designer yet again. All right. Now, Forms Designer, the new version that came out a couple of weeks ago, it has the ability to repoint a form's published location at a new library. The main benefit from that for now is that those promoted properties that I showed, you can publish those to another library, including a document library. So we're just going to come in here to the Publishing tab. You can see that it's currently pointed at that form library. So I want to change that. Going to click Publish Location. I've got a little message here sort of explaining what this does. So here it's populating with the current values. So I'm just going to change this drop down here to say that library, apply changes. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here to promoted properties. I've repointed the published location, but I haven't actually published or anything. So I'm going to publish these columns out to the new library. Just hit publish here. Yep. All right. So it does a little assessment of the properties. It can tell that these haven't yet been added to that library. It says they're new. I can review this. It all looks good. So I go ahead and click publish. It's going to save my updated template back to Form 0. And here's the outcome. It says that all of these properties have now been added. So let's verify that that's true. Come in here. look at, they're not added to the view by default. So I got to come in here to edit the view. Here they are. We've got, and let's see, employee name, report date, and the last one was purpose. Okay. All right, so now we've got those. We don't have anything in the library yet, so let's have a look at that. Currently, I've repointed the publish location, but the submit functionality is still pointing at the previous library. So let's repoint that. Just open up the data connection here. This too auto-populates with the current values. So I'm going to change that to expense reports. Apply the changes to the data connection and then save. All right, and now I can open up a form, fill out a couple of values, just go with today's date. Let's say go to webinar subscription. I don't know how much a subscription costs. Let's just say it's $50. Submit. Okay. Come over here to our library, refresh. And there we go. It looks like I didn't specify my email address, so that wasn't included. But we can see that here it's extracted the values from the submitted document and put them into those promoted columns.
And I know we're running out of time. That's great, Jimmy. I know we're running out of time, so we don't. You do configure this to the links and whatnot using the same tool that we did for the list form, right?
Yep, that's what you would do.
Okay. Great.
Yep. And if you, just one more comment, that if you, you'll probably want to move your data over to this library. And of course, there are various ways to do that, but you can rest assured that when you do, these promoted columns will be populated automatically.
Oh, wow, that's great. So even if you just like copied the XML out to like a local file system and dragged and dropped them up there, would that work? Or would you have to use like SharePoint? Yeah. Okay. That's great.
No, you can, I mean, I think it would be good to just have a quick look at that. So I'm just gonna download one of these. I know we're pressed for time. Okay, so I've downloaded that. Just gonna come back over here, drag it in. There we go.
That's awesome. Okay, let's quickly switch back to the presentation. We've got a few more things to talk about, and we are going a little longer than usual today because this is a really important topic, and well, we're also recording it. So if you have to drop off, we'll be having this on YouTube later today or tomorrow. So we've been working on this replacement for InfoPath now for many years, and our goal was to give our customers an easy migration path, which means you don't have to really change a whole lot. It's backward compatible. You can keep those investments. You don't have to retrain your users. You don't have to worry about data from old forms because it all just continues to open fine. You've got Designer now. We do support a lot of new functionality. You saw that the render PDF, but we've done a lot of work with e-signatures, electronic signatures, mobile phone authentication, customizing your forms. You can create your own cure-alls commands if you find something you want to reuse over and over again using JavaScript. And then, of course, integrations with line of business and larger storage systems. So SharePoint has a lot of limitation around data storage, and we've got a scalable way to move your data off of SharePoint into SQL using one of our web services. We're going to talk about that next. We also now have this workflow replacement for Power Automate. Actually, in addition to Power Automate, because it's not really, you can use both of them. We have some benefits for central flows, which comes with DBXL, and it allows you to quickly get notifications without having to worry about creating a lot of power automate HTML and trying to manage that. So there's some really cool, and more importantly, it gives you a task pane that is in your form, so they actually see the status without having to go to SharePoint. So that's pretty cool. We did a webinar on this last month. You can look at our YouTube channel. And of course, we also have built a lot of dashboards using forms. So it's not just for replacing these old browser forms. This is a really old browser form. Modern form. In fact, Jimmy's expense report form that he showed earlier was pretty old. You can see here's a form that has that task pane, that workflow task pane in it, and it's got responsive UI, so it has that that fly out for the task pane. It's got the actual view renders then in a smaller space. So that's the responsive design. It's got a bunch of other things like a header that doesn't scroll out of view. So we're really doing a lot of we've spent a lot of work, building these new modern forms. Here you see emojis being selected in a form, in a timesheet form or a status form. And then, of course, you can use Qdabra Forms technology to build your own dashboard replacements for SharePoint views. And here's one example using Central Flows. Central Flows comes with a default dashboard. That's another benefit you get out of the box. So this is a dashboard that you can use with all your forms as an admin or even as a user to find out which forms are assigned to you. Here's another dashboard that we did in a testimonial for earlier this year for Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. I want to thank Jeff and his team for doing that with us in January. This is showing more responsive design, more dashboard-like. You can't do this in SharePoint very easily. So this is yet another reason to move for your solutions to Qdabra Forms, is because you can have more control over the dashboards. You can control what users see. You don't have to worry about this, huge, what do you call it, explosion of custom views and personal views. You can control that. So, and then of course you can do things like dark mode and things like that. So that's a quick showcase. I want to thank Mel Clemente for her work putting those images together for those slides. She's the one behind all of the UI work as well. So we can help you take your existing forms and really upgrade them to make them look more beautiful. So next, we want to talk briefly about scaling your solutions using DBXL. DBXL is one of our other accelerators we built early on, kind of like with Qdabra Forms. We noticed that there was this gap back in 2005. Microsoft had just announced InfoPath Forms. They just shipped it in 2003, but they didn't give you a solution to integrate with SQL in a way that was reusable. So it was this tight coupled system that you couldn't use with web pages, web browser forms. And so we built this out. And basically what the web service gives you, here's a really old image. We didn't replace this. We should have actually spent more time on this. But the idea here is that you've got forms either in SharePoint or without SharePoint that are submitting across through the web service. DBXL is in the middle here, over to a SQL database. And the database can be on separate servers. You can have multiple databases. And of course, all the repeating data, all that rich structure in your forms gets correctly mapped to the data set, the data structure that you want. But it also stores the XML. And because it stores the XML, it's got a copy of record. The admin can go back at any time, update the mapping from the XML to SQL, and reshred the documents. And that gives you a lot of power to build solutions and not have to worry about this, this very tight coupling. So, and this is very common now with things like NoSQL and storing documents. That extra step of mapping everything out to the tables and allowing you to redo that is where the power is here. And then, of course, you can integrate this with your line of business applications. So what Jimmy's going to show next is we're going to do another demo and show how to take your list form and move it to DBXL. Jimmy?
Yep. Just let me
Click in on that. There
okay.
you
go. Okay. All right. So this is a scenario we presented in a training course we did last week. We're going to be refining it a bit and presenting it again in an expanded training course later this year. So I'm just going to go over this quickly, and you can get all the great details from that course. So basically, the idea is that SharePoint lists, they have their limitations. You have a soft limit of 5,000 items. You don't have they don't provide the way to store stuff in the database like Patrick just said. So what we thought about is taking a list form and actually having it submit to DBXL instead of SharePoint. So that's what we did. We explained how to get the list form out of SharePoint, how to make the necessary modifications, and it seems to work quite well. So for that, we actually use this DBXL Native Connections XTP. It has simple instructions for setting it up. This very nicely works in list forms. And
just let me interrupt you again.
So,
just for those that don't know what an XTP is, XML template parts are reusable sections and forms that you can use. In InfoPath days, you could take this thing and design it, and then you could add it in theory to any form. And they didn't push this as a key technology, even though it's really cool, because there was a few limitations with it. If you add it twice, you ended up duplicating the structures. So there are definitely some limitations. What we've shown here is we've got two XML template parts, reusable sections or reusable common sections for the designer. We're going to be adding many more in the near future, but these are really common scenarios. Dynamic data connections, being able to port your form from one site to another with that other XCP that you saw, and then this one that allows you to quickly move your data into DBXL. So it's kind of like a migration tool that's built into the Forms Designer, Jimmy.
Yeah, and of course, if you're going to be moving your data out of a list, then you won't be able to use the list UI for viewing all the items and opening them up. And so for that, what you use is a dashboard form. So we can see here, this is something that Hillary created, I think, in a couple of hours. And this is actually using DBXL to get the data out of the database and basically show me the records. Because we migrated from a list, we keep track of which list we came from. We figured a scenario where things have been archived into secondary lists. So you want to know which archived list they were coming from. The dashboard provides links. So this form is actually opening the record from DBXL, loading it into a form in Forms Viewer, and you've got all your submit functionality and all that. You can create a new one. Let's just have a look at this. Let's just call me.
And this is all the data is being stored in SQL, right? It's not even, you're not even touching the SharePoint site anymore, right? Even though you're using that as your launch pad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, that's right. And of course, that as he described, that gives you ability to extract your data out to database tables to do reporting and to query them in all sorts of novel ways. So I'm just going to close my form, come back here to the dashboard, and let's see where here.
You need a refresh button on there or something, right?
I might.
Do you remember which one it was, or?
I don't. All right, looks like there may have been an issue, but hopefully this gives you the general idea of you can take your list data, store it in DBXL, which allows you to do all sorts of interesting things with the data and go far past that 5,000 item limit.
If you just search for Jimmy New Employee, do you find it there?
Oh, there it is. Okay, it was on the second page. There we go. I can open it back up. There we go.
Great. Thanks so much for doing those demos today. And I want to quickly close this out. We've gone a little bit longer than normal, and I appreciate everyone's patience with us today. I want to give everyone a chance to ask us questions. But once again, thanks a lot, Jimmy, for those wonderful demos and for doing all the work that you do. So just going back to the slides then. So So once again, DBXL is more than just a database, make your solutions large scale solution. We've even added central flows. Go to our webinar in September. Take a look at that. It's very impressive. It's a lot of value for free. We are a small business, and we love our customers, and so we don't gouge you with crazy pricing or whatever like that. We obviously need to stay in business, so we do charge for some of this stuff, like Qdabra forms and DBXL, but they're very inexpensive compared to the other stuff that's out there. And we're committed to you and supporting you, which we don't know if Microsoft will change anything next year or the following year. They do make changes a lot, but we are making a commitment to you and guaranteeing you that we will be supporting you for many, many years to come. But yeah, so DBXL gives you not just the storage, but it also gives you this non-SharePoint place. So you can actually just move off of SharePoint completely. You don't have any limits. Plus, we do all the history for every single submit. We keep stats on when anyone views something. There's just a ton of functionality in this solution that we really haven't gone into. But I just wanted to outline that we have it for you. So any questions for us? I want to thank you all for being here today. Thanks, Suzanne, for the comment. And thanks, Alan, for that comment earlier about our demo. We were faking the demo error. Actually, it was a real error. We weren't faking it. And Jimmy is not a drama queen. But yeah, I misspelled the name of our company here. This is the new training is coming up, as Jimmy mentioned, at the end of November. And we are going to have a class size that's capped at 15 people. It's free. We'll send out a link soon that you can register for. You can go to our website right now and register. It's just under education. If you go to qdabra.com and click on education, you can actually register for the class. Oops, that's our SharePoint site. And we have a very special offer for you. So classes, education classes, you can just click register here. And it starts 7 a.m. Pacific because we're in Japan, Jimmy and I are. And so we'll be helping you with, I'll be emceeing the class, and Jimmy will be there, I think, on day 2, like he was last week. So that's coming up in November. We have another webinar coming up next week. We're going to be showing you the latest Forms Designer stuff. And I want to thank everyone again for your time today. Was I going to say something else here? Yeah, so I guess that's it. Anything else? I guess we've got a question here. Maybe I should look at the questions again. Nope, it's just lots of laughs from Alan. Thanks again, Alan. Yeah, so we're here for you. I think let's just see if I can remember what I was going to say. If I forgot now, but yeah, thanks for joining, and we look forward to having you. Oh, I know what I was going to say. We have a special deal for the training. If you show up for training and you complete the labs, which you get 2 weeks to do, we're going to give you free support credits worth $1,000 to help you with anything. So you don't even have to have a support plan with us. You can just show up for training, and you can get between 8 and 40 hours, depending on the resource, of free help doing your migration. And we'll be talking a lot about these topics during the training. Of course, you have to complete the labs to get the credit, but we are offering that again this year, just like we did last year, and for the first 15 people only. And so we look forward to seeing you there if you can make it. Have a great day, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you all, and we'll be here again next week. Take care. Thanks, Jimmy.